That's my take on leagues. I love leagues.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it a little more like it's a slog now, even when I am in the mid game, just because I think they've changed up the way that you progress through this league. It's a little bit slower. You don't have as many OP abilities within the relics. Like
Really?
they are OP. Yeah, so like last league, you had last recall
Yeah.
as a free thing. Like you didn't have to pick a tier for it.
Oh, is that not
So
a given right now on this league?
it's not. It's a choice. So you can either
Oh.
pick the banker's note, which allows you to note or unnote anything in your inventory, or you can take the last recall. So it's one
Why
of
did
the
they make that a
choices.
choice? I feel like everybody loved Last Recall and loving it was almost it felt like a
I th-
run thing, like just
I
always
think
having to
it's
run.
honestly, I think it's just to make it interesting and give you
Okay.
like meaningful choices. Like you can't. It was fairly overpowered. I mean, it had been in the game. It had been in the game mode for the last two leagues in a row, and so it to me it just feels like it's a way to switch it up.
Hmm.
Like they may bring it back in a future league where you get it for free, but it became a thing where I think that people were expecting it and like having predetermined metas around it that they needed to kind of shake things up and be like, well, no, you don't just get it. You have to choose
I
between
see.
these two OP things.
And
And
frankly,
now,
I think that's way more interesting the way they did
yeah,
it.
it's
Definitely.
It's
interesting
been way
gameplay.
more fun.
I guess
Yeah. So
I hadn't played it. I just saw it as a run thing where like what just give it to everybody because everyone enjoys it. But that doesn't make
yeah.
sense. It's not actually probably as essential as run.
Oh, so the issue the first time, right? So it originated in the original Trailblazer League, Leagues 2, where the options were like it was like unlimited jewelry and like a teleport book with all the jewelry stuff in it. Fairy's Flight, which was just any fairy ring in the game, which was terrible at the time, or Last Recall, which was like, hey, teleport where you were, which doesn't sound super useful until you bring that bitch to God Wars, until you bring it to Zulrah, until you bring it to Vorkath, and you never run out of food. You never run out of supplies. You get the dog shit beat out of you by Bandos. You teleport home. You sip your pool. You eat some Kromboins. You go right back. You don't need to get kill count. You don't need to go through all the wolves or the teleporting or all the other finding the hammer and all that. You're just there at the door.
That's
And the
crazy.
convenience that it opened up in leagues too, it very quickly became quote unquote the correct choice. And when people didn't pick it and realized how good it was, wow, does that feel bad? That and they ran into the same issue um in leagues 3, but instead they're like, you know what? We're not going to leave an option for a bad choice on the table. Everybody gets last recall with our relic combinations. It turns out the relic combinations were not intuitive and the interface was a nightmare, and that's the biggest gripe I think with leagues 3.
Yeah.
But it did appear there technically. And then leagues 4, they said, you know what? Everybody gets last recall. They also introduced Banker's Note. They put Banker's Note up against Fire Sale. Fire Sale, every single shop was free. All the items you bought were noted. So, like, are you a level 3 account who wants to go buy an Onyx from the Tazar shop? Sure, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and buy 20 million cooked Karambwans from Karamja. You never need food for the rest of the league. Stuff like that with Fire Sale.
Hmm.
But it also had Banker's Note, which was note and unnote items from anywhere in the world, including in instances. So in the early game, Fire Sale skyrocketed people for points. Fire Sale was great. Banker's Note was the long game. Banker's Note was 1,000 Karambwans at Theater of Blood, 1,000 brews in the Inferno, 1,000 prayer pots on a Slayer task. You just never leave,
Yep.
right? And it kind of became obvious that towards the later game, Banker's Note was the quote unquote correct choice. So this time they said, you know what? Fuck you guys. Here's two correct choices. And they
Good way to put it.
buffed last recall so that now it remembers your stats. Like it saves your character in that moment. So if you stand outside the Zulrah room with 126 HP, and full prayer or whatever. I don't know if it saves your boosted stats or not, but if it does, that's cool. You kill Zulra, you're venomed, you got the shit beat out of you. You just total recall back, bam, you are on the dock with full
Oh,
health,
that
ready
is
to go.
sexy.
So it works for like wilderness bosses too. So like if you're killing Venenatus and Venenatus beats you within an inch of your life, you just total recall a couple tiles away from her, and you just get right back in the fight.
Would you say this is the most balanced league there is when it comes to choicing, like just the choices you
Choicing
have?
Yes,
as far as the relics are concerned, I think yes. The only one that's not balanced and is still just objectively bad is Equilibrium. Jagex, man, stop putting Equilibrium in the game or make it better.
What is that one?
Equilibrium provides 10% additional XP to the skill that you are training, or 20% XP if it's your lowest skill. That is not what the name Equilibrium seems like. The name
10% of your total
Equilibrium,
level.
10% of your what? It's 10% of your oh, it's somehow even worse.
No,
So
yeah. So if you're 1500 total, you get 150 extra XP
For every action or what?
for every action that you do for that
every
first.
action. People say it's like the maxing relic or it's the 200 mil all relic, which like
Okay.
yeah, it does save a little bit of time, but
But
was
what is it
stacked up
compared
against?
to? Yeah, yeah. What is it stacked up with? Like against?
So tier 4 was Equilibrium, then Golden God, which let me pull the relic interface up here. It said all alchemy spells do not require a rune cost. Items give 15% extra GP and have a 65% chance to not be consumed. And then when it's cast on a stack of items, it will automatically be recast over time and
Oh, yeah.
cannot be interrupted by things like combat. So you would go into the fight caves with 200 dragon longswords, high alch them the entire time, and let it be good. Money is only so useful for an Iron Man, so they said, hey, every 20,000 coins, you can offer it at a prayer altar in exchange for prayer XP equivalent to using a dragon bone, which
Wow.
Which
respects XP
scales with the XP.
multipliers.
Yeah, it
Okay.
scales with the XP
Scales with the
multiplier.
XP, and prayer's a combat skill, so it's double your XP multiplier, and it respects like the wilderness or the ectofontis or the lit gilded altar. Yeah,
Those
and it also
percentage
allows
bonuses.
things bought to be noted, if you would like. So it's the money solve. Like you
Yeah.
never have to worry about money. And then the other one was Reloaded, where they allowed you to choose a relic from tiers 1 through 3 again.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
They're actually going pretty. You know what? One of the things that actually impresses me so much about leagues is how few bugs there are. Like coming out
True.
with something like this, I would imagine a game mode like this just being absolutely filled to the brim with just unnecessary or just unforeseen bugs everywhere because of just the game being so just introduced with just not even introduced, jam packed with so many crazy things, and yet somehow it functions. Like I'm actually so impressed by Jagex being able to pull off something like this.
Absolutely.
They get better and better every year. We
Mhm.
kind of stop and say like, there's no way they top themselves next time, right? And we've been saying that for a long time. They didn't with Leagues 3 versus Leagues 2, but they sure as hell did in Leagues 4, and they sure as hell did in Leagues 5.
So Leagues 5 is
And
better than Leagues 4, you would say? Like this one's the best?
in a lot of ways, I think I don't know if it's we've only been playing for a week, right? I don't know if it's objectively better, but I think it's far more interesting. I think the combat mastery system is more interesting. I think the progression feels a little bit better. Like the progression feels a little bit more meaningful. Or like it's not like, okay, you're tier 3, here's your melee relic. You're now a demigod with melee. Oops, you chose Kandarin, Desert, and Tiranwin. Have fun with a shitty like melee loadout. Instead, with the new mastery system, it allows you to like pick and choose, and like there's no really like bat. Like we've been trying to theory craft the worst region combination with like the worst mastery combination. And like the worst way to do it is just to not pick regions and masteries. Like that is how
Okay.
in my opinion, well balanced it is. Like
Wow.
they've nerfed Kandarin to shit versus last year. But it's good. It's diversified the meta. Everyone who wants to enjoy Mage is no longer obligated to go Kandarin if you don't want to. So
Now,
Wait, have you
Yeah,
have
go.
you seen like any of the Echo bosses? Are you familiar with what those are?
Yeah, I've seen them. I'm
Okay.
not fully familiar. I mean, I'm just imagining every single boss has an Echo version of it.
All the major ones do,
Okay.
and there's different mechanics. They
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do
yeah.
crazy things,
And
and then
what does
there's
it
like
do?
a
Does it
spec.
buff the
Well, they give
drops?
you it
Or
gives you a specific item that is only available from that Echo boss. So, for
and
instance,
mm,
only exists in the
in that
league.
yeah, just a league's item. So, like Calfight Queen, that Echo boss drops what's called the Drygore Blowpipe. It's basically a blowpipe that has the same effect as the Fang does, where it double rolls accuracy and
oh
takes the
my
higher.
god.
But it's a blowpipe that you get from the desert. Crazy.
So that's the
Yeah.
way they really are able to balance the
Yes.
areas, at
Mhm.
least with PVM, is like they've actually been able to hand pick or like handcraft these new weapons and
Hmm.
stuff that make it.
It's been everything. It's been
That's
like
amazing.
in Tehran the blessing gives the crystal bonus, like for the Bofa, it gives the bonus to melee weapons, but any melee weapon, Blade of Saldor, Inquisitor's Mace, Scythe of Vitor, it gives that 30% accuracy,
Wow.
15% damage. Mauritania, the gloves double the effect of barrow sets and act as an amulet of the damned. So the max hit with Darox is like 194 or some crazy shit like that. When you're at like 1 HP or something. The Hespori one is okay. The one for Asgarnia, they said it's called the dog sword, and they combined all of the 5 god swords together into one. And it does all 5
Dog.
of the god sword special attacks at the
Because
same time.
Oh my god, are
you
you
get
It's
it.
serious?
You get it from
Yep,
Cerberus.
you get the healing, you get the freezing, you get the defense reduction, you get the blood barrage, and you get the increased accuracy from the AGS. It's
For
Wait,
one
wait.
stupid
spec.
Does it
for
does
one
it
spec.
does it also like have a 5x double accuracy thing where like it keeps multiplying that accuracy or is it just a double accuracy that didn't get multiplied 5 times?
It might just be double accuracy. I didn't
Okay.
go as Garnia, so I couldn't tell
But
you.
you're already
Like,
so overpowered anyway, it doesn't even matter.
it's truly ridiculous. So, and the way they have
Dog
made some
sword.
of these boss fights, oh my god! I have only done the Echo Hespori fight. I did that bitch like 30 times in a row because it's just fun, dude.
That's
It's
fucking
just
awesome.
Not
fun
to
to take
mention,
these.
you got extremely dry. You had to go to the pity rate, didn't you?
I think I did go to the pity rate for that sniper rifle. It felt really bad. And then turns out the Hespori or the Nature's Reprisal doesn't even feel that good on your off
But yeah,
style. But
the item from Hispori is basically like the
it's a
same mechanics as
salamander.
a salamander, so you can melee from a distance.
Oh my god.
So you can
Yes.
take all the super buff melee masteries, go in with full Torva and an Infernal Cape and kill Zuck with technically melee damage.
So are
It's
all the
pretty
Echo
cool.
fights unique? Do they all
Yes.
kind of have a similar sort of feel to it where it's like, okay, these
Oh
are.
no,
Oh,
they're all
really?
unique. Like
Wow.
all of the Echo boss fights have like I wouldn't say they all have unique mechanics, but they're unique fights.
Hmm.
They're not like a standardized. This is like because they take the concept from the original fight. Like I'm gonna give you spoilers for the Hispori. Some people love to go into these fights blind,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna spoil the Hispori fight real quick. When you're fighting Hispori, instead of just 4 flowers, it'll pop up like 10 different flowers, and then the flowers have prayer mechanics to where you have to kill some with melee, and you have to kill some with range or mage.
Mm.
And so while you're doing that, while you're trying to get all of these flowers killed, Hispori shoots out this bomb that will cover an entire like quarter of the playfield. And if you're stuck there, it's like an instant 35 damage. And she's also changing styles that hit like a truck. I think if you're off, like if you don't have your Prey Mage, at least for me, if I don't have Prey Mage up, I'm getting hit like a 45.
Mm.
So you really have to like figure out where you're standing, change your prayers accordingly. You can't just tank the mage hit. And then every so often you have to go all the way around the room and destroy all the flowers while you're still trying to fight Hispori. Arguably, it's probably one of the easiest ones out there, from what I've heard, just because like it's Hispori, how hard can it be? But the fight itself is very interesting when you think about how easy the mechanics of like killing Hispori in the main game is.
Hmm.
So it's really cool how they got to like play around with just like crazy things that you wouldn't think of.
This is what excites me is that they're given so much freedom to explore these new boss mechanics and stuff. I feel like, I mean, the fact that there's like how many Echo boss fights to do in leagues, like there's got to be tons of
Uh
them.
10?
There's one for
9?
each region, so
So
it's yeah.
they literally came out with like 10 brand new fights, kind of, and your
Mhm.
guys are saying they're some of the most fun things. Do you see that? Like, what if they were to have added what the Hespori Echo fight is as Hespori in the main game originally? Like, would that have been a good thing? Obviously, they'd have to
We
scale it back a bit, maybe.
we spoke about this with Double Shine a little bit,
Mm.
and our kind of like tinfoil hat theory is like this is the way that they introduce like hard mode variants of old bosses. Like I don't know if you've done Michael. Do you want spoilers for the KBD Echo fight?
I've definitely seen
Um,
Foe fight that one.
So
I'll take
The
spoilers.
KBD Echo fight, for example, KBD is boring as shit to kill. It doesn't. You don't do it. You stand there and you take damage and you kill the boss, right?
Hmm.
But now it shoots like blasts of things on the floor. There are other dragons that you have to manage at the exact same time. Um, it just makes it way more fun, and it's a fresh look on a lot of these, particularly old bosses. DK's Calphite Queen, King Black Dragon, Thermi, Cerberus, the stuff that's like either early RuneScape or early old school. I think the only exception is like Hespori and Soul Heredit are the only like newer bosses. Um that and like the Soul fight almost it's like no different.
I was
The
gonna
Echo
say
Soul
Soul
fight.
Fight's already incredible. It's so well crafted.
Yeah.
I thought the Soul fight was good. Like the phalanxes were gonna like step inwards, and you were gonna have like the arena was gonna get smaller and smaller. But
Mm.
from the little clip I saw on Twitter, doesn't look like there's much different about it. Like he has one different dust pattern with the shield smash. Uh, but I don't know the Soul fight well enough to know what's also wrong with it because I don't have a quiver. But no,
Twitter
it's been a
alert.
lot of fun, right? Uh, I I don't know. I don't think some of these Echo bosses would have been fun to implement off the rip. I think a farming boss that has a like a here's like a 50 for fun attack. That feels kind of bad. You're trying to get farming XP and not get the shit beat out of you. But these could maybe make their way into the main game.
I think it's a
Maybe.
soft launch, honestly, because, and this is the tinfoil hat theory, that if they wanted to add a little spice and give players who want more out of this game, they want to give them more. It makes sense to just like make variants of the same fights instead of like just always having to make new things, just make old things harder.
Hmm.
Give Thermi and Kraken something to do, you know? And then give people the reward of doing it, something a little bit better, like we have with the Awakened bosses. I mean, they've already done it, right? As I say that, the Awakened bosses are what this concept is. You need a special orb. You get to fight it once, and it's got different mechanics, and it's harder, and it rewards you with something. They could have Awakened versions of almost any boss in the game, and it be something that I think the community could get behind.